when we look back at the election coverage, we are really proud and happy the way we delivered the results and giving the new experience for Sri Lankan audience. Actually, we planned this well in advance. Actually, before the election was declared, we planned it really advanced. Our news team, together with the technical and the content development team, on air creation team, they actually planned this for months. Really, actually, since we are leading on news coverage in Sri Lanka, we will do something different and some new experience to Sri Lankan audience. I think we delivered it. Really, actually, I must thank the creative team led by Mahesh and the technical team led by Purita, and the news team led by Yuvaraj. So everyone, especially our presenters, Chatura, Sankar and Khalindu, they all really made the difference. So I'm very happy and proud of our team. We managed to give a really good experience to the Sri Lankan audience. So I must thank everyone, especially the foreign team who came here and supported us. Visati and Segu Sports from Israel, Dado from Stipe, especially they came and add value to the system. Actually, we didn't want to do much because we already had the technology with us. Actually, it's purely the creativity. We need the creativity, so our team managed to deliver it.
Well, the challenge for us was when we were approaching the 2024 election, was the 2019 election and the 2020 election, because Derana, the Derana Media Network, established a benchmark in television when it comes to election broadcasting, and we managed to give our viewers one of the best election broadcasting experience in the world at that particular moment. If you look at channels like CNN, BBC, Fox News, MSNBC and NBC, all these international channels that does elections really well. Now that's exactly what the experience we wanted to give our viewers, and we managed to give that somewhere around in 2019 for the presidential election and also 2020 the general election. So we already have set the benchmark when it comes to television broadcasting for election coverage, and that we have to basically up the game again. And that was the challenge, because once you already have established a really high mark, a really high benchmark, how are we going to break that and also going beyond? That was basically the challenge. Well, when I approached this election, I thought, how can we push the envelope a little bit more? Just like I said, the benchmark needs to be moved once again. The goalpost needs to be moved once again. So how can we do that? In 2019 and 2020, we managed to give our viewers a virtual reality experience utilizing real-world props, which was the studio, and also bring in virtual realities into play. This time around, I want to go ahead and push that envelope too. So that was the approach this time, and we used a lot of augmented reality. We used a lot of virtual reality in order to explain a lot of stories. How can we tell the story of this country's change of presidency, if it was going to change, or whether the incumbent at that moment was going to get re-elected. Whatever said and done, it was a pivotal moment for this country. Now, this is Sri Lanka's story. As a news channel, as a television station, what we usually do is to tell Sri Lanka's story. So in this pivotal moment, what I wanted to do is to utilize the latest technology available in election broadcasting when it comes to virtual reality, augmented reality. And more so this time around, I wanted our viewers to have an experience combining these two worlds, real world and virtual world, where when they sit in front of the television, they see this story being told in a marvelous way. They can be proud to watch this broadcast. That's exactly what the thought process was.
So when Mahesh came up with the concept, all the teams involved collaborated, and we brainstormed in how to use the current technology to showcase what was to be presented to the audience. So at that moment we had so much of data which has to be processed and converted to augmented reality, and for a better viewer experience we had to tell the story in a way where we attract the audience in a better way. So for that, technology wise we used Wizardy to showcase all our graphics, and RedSpy we incorporated as our AR for our AR elements.
So the graphics utilization this time around, what we wanted to do now in 2019, if you remember the broadcast, you saw we used this same studio. We didn't move around. We just used every space of this studio because it was right after opening this studio back in 2019 January, and the elections were somewhere around in November, and we wanted to use this studio to its maximum in 2019 and also 2020. So you saw the roof experience where we went to the roof in order to explain the result. We explained the comparison of results right here in the studio as well. So all was done here inside Studio 24. But this time around, I wanted to break that into various areas so that each component will get its own space. So in Studio 24, the graphics was basically when I really was thinking, how can we make it really interesting for the viewer, because this studio, the views of this studio has been seen by the viewer right throughout since 2019 up until 2024. Everybody has seen various angles of this studio. They've seen the ring, they've seen the main screen, the weather wall, the vertical wall that we have. All this they have seen it in bucket loads in various programs. So this time around, how can we use this space and make sure that we give a different take, a different look? As soon as we open the show, the viewer should ask this question, where are they? So the basic thing that could have achieved that was to change the roof. So the roof was basically transformed into a dome. The dome was another challenge as well. Sri Lankan architecture does have domes, but not an iconic one. Well, as soon as people see it, they would not remember it. We were looking at, the roofs of the Independence Square, the BMICH, these kinds of architecture that exist, but none of them is really iconic enough for people to remember. So the only thing that came to my mind was the Lotus Tower, which is basically right outside my office. Having a look at it, understood the fact that the Lotus Tower is something that basically every Sri Lankan is very familiar with. So I wanted to give that experience of, if you are inside the Lotus Tower, how would the dome look? And that's how we created that entire roof. So that when you open the show, you would see this big roof, you see the petals, you see this amazing space, which gives the viewer the experience as if, oh, hang on, did they take the studio and go and put it inside the Lotus Tower? So that was the whole push towards that. Then this time around, with regard to comparisons or basically explaining the result, as soon as you saw Chaturava, we had a small drama in order to get Chaturava from Studio 24 into the next studio. We just didn't want to just let him walk. We wanted to create a little bit of a drama where, suddenly somebody comes and tells, and we were trying to figure out, hey, what's going on? Is this a mistake? So all that, what we did was to take him from this existing Studio 24 and take him out to a different comparison studio, which was the analytical center for the result. So that a different studio which we utilize. In that, again, when we have a lot of space, it gave us the freedom to basically explain the results, the data, in a better manner. So that what we did was we used complete virtual reality environment for that. the presidential secretariat building that you saw, where the top two contenders were slowly going up the steps, that entire thing, and then the explanations of the graphics where Chatra was standing in order to explain the results, all that, we just only had a video wall and a small stage for Chatra to stand. The rest was completely immersed in virtual reality. And that actually came off very well, because that gave the viewer the new experience that we really wanted them to have. How did they go and do this? Because there is a lot of gaming experience, which is very much familiar with the younger generation, but for the older generation, for them to see something beautiful like that, that was an experience I know for a fact, because by the feedback that we were getting. So we didn't have a lot of components of graphics. We were not firing a lot of information. We were firing a very few elements of graphics, but we wanted to do it right. And that's what we did this time around in 2024.
So our top priority was to deliver the results as quickly as possible as soon as we got it from the Election Commission. So to tackle that, we consulted an international team which was recommended by our local Wizard consultant tech lobby. So we went to that international team and we presented our pitch, and with their help we were able to give the results within 15 seconds from the results being released from the Election Commission. So with all that technology, we were able to disseminate the results first to all the audiences around the world.
අද දින කියන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ අංක 1 ප්‍රවෘත්ති සන්නාමය ලෝකෙ තියෙන ඉහළම තාක්ෂණයේ ඉහළම ප්‍රමිතියෙන් යුතු ප්‍රවෘත්ති ඔබ වෙත ගෙන එන්නේ අද දින ප්‍රවෘත්ති ආශය BBC CN නාලිකා වල ප්‍රමිතියට මෙවරත් මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශය ඔබ වෙත ගෙනීම තමයි අපේ ආරම්භන තිබුණේ. ඉතින් කණ්ඩායමක් විදිහට ඔබට නවම අත්දැකීමක් තාක්ෂණයෙන් පරිපූර්ණ නවම අත්දැකීමක් ඔබ වෙත සමීප කිරීමට අපට අවස්ථාව ලැබුණා. ඉතින් කණ්ඩායමක් විදිහට අපිට සන්තෝෂයි ජාත්‍යන්තර ප්‍රමිතියේ තවත් නවම අත්දැකීමක් ඔබ වෙත සමීප කිරීමට ලැබීම පිළිබඳව.
So, in order to create that virtual reality world this time around, for those things are, it's easy for you to dream about it, but then again, putting it into reality with the existing technology, well, that was a challenge. It wasn't a challenge, like you would be wondering, it exists in the gaming world, but gamings are not live television. What we did was live television. We had to fire graphics on the fly. All that environment has to exist live when we were basically moving the camera. So the challenge was to utilize the technology that exists in broadcasting world and to bring that to Sri Lanka and to make sure that our election broadcast is absolutely stunning. So that's where Purita, my colleague who actually approached Vizate team and also managed to get through to Sagev Sports. Now, when we went to them, the reason we had to go for them is when we are creating a virtual world for television in order to fire live, that doesn't exist in Sri Lanka. We don't have Viz artists who could do that in such an impactful manner. And because of that, we had to seek international support, and that's where Sagev Sports comes in. Basically, we told them this is what we want. We want to create this virtual world. We want to create our presidential secretariat. We want to show the top two contenders slowly taking step by step towards the door of the presidential secretariat. We want to tell this story, staying inside the Lotus Tower, all that. And that was their challenge. So what we did was basically create the graphics locally by my graphic designer, one of the best, Neloka Fernando. Props to him, because he knows exactly how to read my mind and to basically bring that into life. And he created all the graphics, and we basically handed over to Sagev Sports, and they had to recreate it in that virtual world. So they basically, there was two jobs done. One, we gave them the storyboard and told them this is what we require, and for that the look and feel feel has to be given perfectly, and that's where the local talent comes in. And then we handed it over to Vizate, where they took it and they exactly create the same thing, recreated in the software, which we do not have the expertise. So that's where we actually managed to work hand in hand with Game Sports and in order to give that final outlook.
We started the project like 2 months ago, something like that. Started to work with Puri at first, and then later on with Mahesh, working on the creative side, understanding the requirements of the graphics, of what you want to achieve. It was for us very interesting. We had to learn a different way of election system, and in order to implement it in our technology, we need to understand exactly the way that things have been being done. And 1 week before we came, we got the message that for the first time it's going to be probably a second round, which at the end of the day it did end with the second round. So everything was needed to be adapted.
2024 ජනාධිපතිවරණයේ දෙරණ මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශය තමයි මම හිතන්නේ ලංකාවේ වැඩිම දෙනෙක් නරඹපු මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශය. මම හිතන්නේ පැය 24ක විතර අකණ්ඩ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශයක් ගෙන එන්න අපට පුළුවන්කම ලැබුණා. ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ වැඩිම දෙනෙක් අපව නරඹන්න හේතුව තමයි අපේ මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශයේ තිබිච්ච ආකර්ෂණීය බව. ඒ ආකර්ෂණීය බවත් එක්ක බොහොම විශ්ලේෂණාත්මකව, බොහොම සංසන්දනාත්මකව ඉතා ඉක්මනින් අපට ප්‍රතිඵල ගෙන එන්න පුළුවන්කම ලැබුණා. ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ ජනතාව බොහෝ දෙනෙක් අපිත් එක්ක එකතු වෙලා හිටියා. ඒ වගේම සිංහල, දෙමළ, ඉංග්‍රීසි භාෂා තුනෙන්ම අපට පුළුවන්කම ලැබුණා මේ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශය ගෙන එන්න. ඉතින් අපේ තිබිච්ච වැදගත්ම දේ තමයි, ආකර්ෂණීයම දේ තමයි ග්‍රැෆික් නිර්මාණාශ්‍රයෙන් අපි කරපු ඉදිරිපත් කිරීම. ඉතින් මේවා ලංකාවේ අපේ තරුණයන්ගේ දස්කම්, නිර්මාණ හැකියාවන් ඒකම තාක්ෂණික වශයෙන් වගේම මැදිරි පහසුකම් අතින් ලංකාවේ ඉතා ඉදිරියෙන්ම ඉන්න රූපවාහිනී නාලිකාව විදියට මේක ලොකු ටීම් එකක් විදියට අපට ලොකු වැඩක් කරන්න පුළුවන්කම ලැබුණා. ඉතින් මම හිතන්නේ ඉදිරියේදී එන මහ මැතිවරණයේදී ඉතා විශ්ලේෂණාත්මක, ඉතා ආකර්ෂණීය මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශයක් ගෙන එන්න අපි මේ දිනවල ඉඳගෙනම අපේ නිෂ්පාදන කණ්ඩායම් ගණනාවක් ඉතා යහුසුලුව වැඩ කරගෙන යනවා. පෙර නිෂ්පාදනයේ දෙනවා. ඉතින් මම හිතනවා ගිය සැරේ වගේම අපට ඉදිරි මහ මැතිවරණයේදී ඉතාම ආකර්ෂණීය මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශයක් ඔබ වෙනුවෙන් ගෙන එන්න පුළුවන්කම ලැබෙවි කියලා.
So we are working with VZRT, as you know, the graphics engines. This time we used Stipe as the tracking engines. In our software, which handles the data and spread the data across all over the machine. It was great for us to see the way that our main operating system, which we call NewsArts, was adopted by the operators here, both, or actually not both, it was in the MCR, in Studio 3 and Studio 24, and we learned from the way that the operators actually looked at it and worked with it, and that will help us to make it better for next time.
It's easy to plan things. It is very easy to plan things. We can take our time, do the graphics. We can, say it has to go like this. But on the day that we have to do it live, that's a different story. Because for that you need a mammoth amount of people in order to support you from various places. From the get-go, from I think at 6:30 in the morning when we started our election broadcast with Chatura coming in with Derana Aruna and starting that broadcast, this studio was functioning. And from that particular point onwards, up until the final result, until we told you that the people of Sri Lanka has elected Anurakumara Dissanayake as the 9th executive president. That also we told it graphically in a beautiful manner, where we again went up the steps and we brought that declaration card in order to tell our viewers, look here, we started at 6:30 on 21st, and on 22nd, I think somewhere around 6:30 in the evening, we declared as to who Sri Lanka has decided. To do that, a lot of teams came to support this. In order to do the technical stuff, we had teams operating separately in 3 studios. This studio had a camera team, a technical team, completely looking after all the anchors, all the data, all the output of this team. In Studio 3, we had a completely different setup because usually we don't use a Jimmy Jib, which we use this time around for news broadcasting. We had to bring it from our Delkando studios, which we use it for entertainment production. We brought it here and we had to basically put a different staff for that to operate it for that 24 hours. They were completely on the fly there. Then the technical team who managed to from connecting the Studio 3, Studio 24, Studio 2, which was the studio which we provided all the television as a competition took place at that particular studio. So all these were completely brought into one place, program control room, and then fired it to our main control room. So the technical team had a mammoth task of basically bringing all them together. And on the day of 21st and 22nd, the producers, my God, they had the biggest task of basically ensuring that all what was designed, all what was said, all what was planned goes on air and is shown to you perfectly. And mind you, these guys managed to pull it off. I props to them because all of them knew the brief very well. They understood it, and they very well knew that this election was a pivotal one for Sri Lanka, and they managed to push through. I think around 14 producers were working 24 hours continuously in order to make sure that this broadcast was brought to life. So it was a mammoth task. A lot of teams, every single person from the web, from the IT, from Puvita's team, Upendra's team, Suminder's team, all these guys, and even the newsroom, every single person managed to bring their A game on this in order to make sure that we give you the best. Because there is no substitute other than the best for Derana. We have to give the best to you.
අපි 2008 ඉඳලා මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශ මේ අවුරුදු 16 පුරාවටම ගෙනාවා. හැබැයි මේ අවුරුද්දේ තමයි පළවෙනි වතාවට ස්ටුඩියෝස් 3ක මේ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශය ගෙනාවේ. එකක් අපි ප්‍රතිඵල නිකුත් කරන්න එක ස්ටුඩියෝ එකක්, ඒ වගේම සංසන්දනාත්මක විග්‍රහයට තව ස්ටුඩියෝ එකක් භාවිත කරා. ඒ වගේම අපි ජයග්‍රාහකයින්ට රූපවාහිනී ලබා දුන්නා. ඒකට අපි තව ස්ටුඩියෝ එකක් භාවිත කරා. ඉතින් මෙතනදී අපිට පොඩි අභියෝගයක් ආවා අපේ නිෂ්පාදක කණ්ඩායම හැටියට මේ ස්ටුඩියෝස් තුනම කොහොමද කෝඩිනේට් කරගන්නේ සහ මේවට කොහොමද අපි කමියුනිකේට් කරන්න කියන එක. අපි අපේ ප්‍රොඩියුසර්ස්ලා 14 දෙනෙක් මේ සම්පූර්ණ ක්‍රියාදාමයට සහභාගී වුණා. ඉතින් ඇත්තටම සුවිශේෂී අත්දැකීමක් ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ ඉහළම තාක්ෂණයත් එක්ක ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ වැඩිම පිරිසක් නරඹපු මැතිවරණ ප්‍රතිඵල විකාශයට දායකත්වය ලබා දීමට හැකියවීම ගැන நிஷ்பாதன அංශය වෙනුවෙන් ඇත්තටම සතුටු වෙනවා.
டிவி தெர்னையில் வந்து எலெக்ஷன் ரிசல்ட்ஸ் வாசிக்கிறதுக்கு இந்த முறை நானும் இருந்தேன், நீங்கள் எல்லோரும் பார்த்துருப்பீங்க. இந்த முறை எலெக்ஷன் ரிசல்ட்ஸ் வந்து செய்ததுக்கு பிறகு இந்த ஒரு குறிப்பிட்ட காலத்துக்குள்ளே என்னை சந்தித்தவங்க எல்லாருமே சொன்னது டிவி தெர்னையில் போன எலெக்ஷன் ரிசல்ட்ஸ் செய்த விதம் வந்து ரொம்ப நல்லா இருந்தது. குறிப்பாக கிராஃபிக்ஸ் நல்லா இருந்தது. ஒவ்வொரு போலிங் டிவிஷன்லையும் ஒவ்வொருத்தர் வின் பண்ணும்போது அது கொஞ்சம் கொஞ்சமாக யார் முன்னோக்கி செல்கிறா அப்படிங்கிறத வந்து ரொம்ப தெளிவாக அழகாக காட்டியிருந்தீங்க அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. அதே நேரத்தில் மற்ற எல்லா சேனலையும் விட எங்களோட சேனல் தான் சிறப்பாக கலந்துரையாடல்களை விசேடமாக கலந்துரையாடல்களை சிறப்பாக செய்திருந்தது அப்படின்னு சொல்லியிருந்தாங்க. அது மாத்திரம் இல்லாமல் எங்களுக்குரிய ஸ்பெஷல் வெப்சைட், அதாவது election.adudena.lk என்ற அந்த ஸ்பெஷல் வெப்சைட் ஊடாக வந்து இலங்கையில் மட்டும் இல்லாமல் உலகளாவிய ரீதியில் இருக்க எல்லாருமே உடனுக்குடன் அந்த எலெக்ஷன் முடிவுகளை தெரிஞ்சு கொள்றதுக்கு ஒரு சந்தர்ப்பம் கிடைச்சது வந்து எங்களுக்கு வந்த இமெயில், அதே போல் எங்களுக்கு வந்த குறுந்தகவல்கள் வாட்ஸ்அப் மெசேஜ் மூலமாக எங்களுக்கு தெரிஞ்சு கொள்ளக்கூடியதாக இருந்தது.
It was really I would say impressive to see the people here at the station fully committed to the project, and the 2-3 days before the election, the amount of rehearsals again and again started with the technical staff, cameramen, technical directors, and later on of course a graphics operator, and later on with the anchors and the talents, and it was amazing to see. And I think all this technology was new for you guys here at Derana, but was adopted beautifully. For me personally, great experience to meet new people in the same industry, speaking the same language, the same professional language, and to happily enjoy a successful broadcast, and we're very happy.
It was a great pleasure to come here to Sri Lanka and help you guys with the presidential election. It was nice to see that you're still using and maintaining the tracking system from Stipe called Red Spy. It's been here already for 5 years, and basically we didn't have any issues to use them on this occasion. The markers were already up, as you saw, and the camera was already there. So it was a great time. We didn't have any issues in using the system. It's already set up with your Viz engine, so we haven't seen or felt any issues so far. Hopefully it's going to stay like this.
මෙවර ජනාධිපතිවරණයේ සජීවී විකාශන කටයුතු වෙනුවෙන් ලංකාවේ අංක 1 නාලිකාව වන ටීවී දරණ ආයතනයේ තාක්ෂණික කණ්ඩායම වශයෙන් අපි කටයුතු කළා. මැතිවරණ සජීවී වැඩසටහන් සඳහා මැදිරි 3ක් අප එකිනෙක සම්බන්ධ කර අතර ඒ තුනම අපි තවත් පාලක මැදිරියක් සමග ඍජුව සම්බන්ධ කරනු ලැබුවා. ඊට අමතරව මේ සඳහා උසස් තාක්ෂණයක් අපි භාවිතා කළා. තාක්ෂණික කටයුතු වෙනුවෙන් අප මැතිවරණයට සති දෙකකට පෙර සිට සූදානම් වුණා. ඉතා විශාල පිරිසකගේ සහභාගීත්වය ඇතුව ඉතා පුළුල් තාක්ෂණික මෙහෙයුම් සිදු කරමින් අප කණ්ඩායම ඉතා විශාල වශයෙන් දායකත්වයක් ලබා දුන්නා මෙම මැතිවරණ විකාශනය සඳහා. ඉදිරි මහා මැතිවරණයේ තාක්ෂණික කටයුතු පිළිබඳ මේ වන විටත් සාකච්ඡා කරමින් පවතින අතර එම මැතිවරණ ක්‍රියාවලියේ මේටත් වඩා අභිනව අයුරින් තාක්ෂණික කටයුතු සූදානම් කර තිබෙනවා රැඳී සිටින ටීවී දරණ සමග.
The camera operators had a really interesting task. It is not just, moving the cameras and zooming in, zoom out and all of that. Now, there were specific tasks given to each studio. Studio 24, in order to show you the roof, which really doesn't exist in reality, they had to make sure that the panning, the zooming, when the results were fired, when we travel from Studio 24 to the location where Chatra was explaining the data, the fly through the city, which was absolutely a beautiful shot, where we go up into the roof opens, and then we go down the Lotus Tower, take a dip through the Berry Lake, and we basically end at the Presidential Secretariat where Chatra was standing by. Now that was a complete virtual reality world which we created. So that experience for them, this is where the task of combining human resources into virtual resources has to be on point. If it was not on point, then it's going to look flimsy and absolutely gaudy, not something that we wanted to achieve. So the cameraman had in Studio 24, when you saw the result card, when the results came in, as soon as what they had to do was they had to tilt up the camera to the roof and make sure that they basically look it from the screen and zoom in, zoom out, and make sure that it looks realistic enough. So they had to go to really low levels, a jib. We used a jib for that. They went basically to on the floor, seated on the floor, 24 hours, making sure that shot is being provided beautifully, and they did that task. Studio 3, the Jimmy Jeep operator, again another task. One of the things, the freedom that the Jimmy Jeep gave us was for us to move around very freely without the limitations. So the Jimmy Jeep gave us that freedom. So when we were explaining from one area we can slowly plan into, we can take a 180-degree turn and basically look at the steps, the progress of the top 2 candidates. So all that, we had to train them. For weeks we trained them, and everyone knew exactly what to do, and they managed to pull it off really beautifully during this entire broadcast. The planning was occurring right throughout, and we were making sure that the broadcast was coming in. One of the challenges that I had was, okay, we know we have a good product to show to the world. How can we make it interesting? It has to be a bang from the get-go. People has to need to understand, oh my God, what's going on? Basically in television language, a hook. How can I get the hook? Because usually if you've seen previous or any other channels broadcast, they start off with this, politician saying something and basically giving a wrap-up of what the election was all about, how the campaign went through. We show a lot of speeches that was given on stages and blah, blah, blah. All that is being showed by many, and that's the usual way that people start an election broadcast, election night broadcast. But this time around, I thought, okay, how can we make it beautiful where people are going to be going to remember that? So that's where I thought, okay, what represents the purity of a ballot? Basically, the ballot box. Ballot box is the hope for the people to change the way that their country is, country's future. So that's where I thought, okay, let's take a ballot box and get somebody to hold it and run across various walks of lives in order to depict the fact that hope, if you look at the first shot, when we were coming from, when we were zooming down and you see a guy, the model who managed to do this was Shaban, and he basically is slowly walking into a ballot box. Ballot box looks pure white. The reason for that was I wanted to showcase purity, people's hope. Hope exists in a vast area of nothingness. That entire area was barren, dry, which depicts where Sri Lanka is right now. And the hope in order to change all that was that ballot box right there in the middle. So we were coming and Shawan was taking it, he was taking that ballot box and running across various forms of life, and people see it and they're excited about it because of the simple fact, okay, there's hope. We can change this country once again. We can change the whole narrative of this country. So that particular portion was very, artistically we wanted to bring it to life, and props to Ishank and his team, and also Sham Dharmarasa, our director for TV Derana. They managed to tell that story beautifully. They made sure that the visuals were given that prominence, where we had people from various walks of life, and slowly converging to the presidential secretariat. And that was the part where we really wanted to tell the viewers, listen, this entire broadcast is going to be an experience for you. And that's where, when Shawan brings the box and goes and places it in front of the presidential secretariat, because the presidential secretariat was the symbol, the location of that presidency, presidential powers. So when he brings the hope of the people and keeps it on the steps of the presidential secretariat, the camera pans down to the X of the box, and boom, we changed it into virtual world. And that was what we wanted to tell the viewers. If you stick around with Derana, you are going to see some amazing things throughout the night when we tell the story of Sri Lanka, how Sri Lanka has decided to change its narrative. That will be shown to you with the usage of realism and virtualism. These two combined together, brought together, stitched together beautifully, and we managed to tell that story. And that was the opener. With that transition, we zoom back, and you see Sanka and Chatura on the steps of the presidential secretariat, which was created by Neluka graphically, completely. And we managed to tell that story beautifully, and the opener was absolutely something that I'm really happy that happened. And also props to the music provided by Victor Lemesne, who's an international music composer who managed to give some beautiful tracks. And his music was really powerful too, and it elevated the whole experience of watching that entire little segment. I think it came off very well. So there's another election that's going to come, which is going to be the parliamentary elections. We have already started our planning, and we're going to make that an experience too. And you will absolutely, it'll be worth your while to stay with Derana to make sure that your decision that you make at the ballot box is given to you, told to you, that story being expressed to you in a manner, in an experience that you will never get anywhere else. Because when it comes to the Derana Media Network, it is the gold standard for election broadcasting.